We're going to ask the question that I do get a lot on the YouTube channel. What state should I homestead in? Now, we have a huge audience, so not everybody's in the United States of America. And if you're watching there's a lot of you watching, I know, from Australia and New Zealand. We have people in South America and Africa. It's really cool. Everywhere, all over the world, people are watching Homesteady. So whether or not you have states, whatever you call it, here in the United States where we are, we have states and we have towns. So use this same concept, zoom out and say, and some of you actually might be doing this, saying, do I even want to live in this country, or do I want to change to a different country? So tonight we're going to help zoom out and then zoom back in and find exactly where you want to be. And this is kind of difficult. When I get asked this question, hey Aust, I live in the United States, what is the best state to homestead in? I cannot give them an answer, because so much of where you want to be will depend on what you want to do. The best state for me to homestead in may not be the best state for you to homestead in. Let's give you a couple examples. I have 5 children. They're all homeschooled. I care very much about the homeschool laws and regulations of the state that I live in. You might not have any kids and might not be planning on having kids, or maybe you had them and they're already grown up. You don't care at all about homeschool laws. Where I might look to Connecticut and say, Connecticut has some fantastic homeschool laws. They let you do what you think is best for training and teaching your children. I love that. You might not care at all. You might say, I don't need that, but Connecticut's tax burden is too heavy. I can never afford to live there. What about gun laws? Do you like to hunt? I love to hunt. I also butcher my own animals, and a larger animal like a pig or a goat, I'm going to need a 22 with some ammo. Back in Connecticut, I couldn't buy ammo anymore. They made it a law where you had to get fingerprinted and go through a bunch of paperwork, and I didn't want to do that to buy ammo. I didn't want to live in a state where I needed to get fingerprinted to buy ammunition. Maybe you're not a gun guy. Maybe you don't really like guns, so you don't care about the gun laws. So Connecticut would work fine. Income tax. Do you have your own business? Are you worried about the income tax burden that you're going to have, or the income tax burden with your job? Raw milk. Do you love raw milk? Some states, it's like a highly illegal substance. You're better off to be found with marijuana than raw milk in some states. Maybe you're better off to be found with a gun than raw milk in some states where you're not supposed to have a gun. The point is, if that's important to you, then you're going to want to live in a state where you can buy it, where you can sell it. If it isn't, then you don't really care. So what you have to do is you have to identify what you actually want from your homestead. Let's talk about climate. Do you love the cold? Do you love wintertime? I did a survey, not really a technical survey. I posted on Instagram about, hey, it's wintertime. What's your favorite season to homestead in? And it seems like everybody in the South loves homesteading in winter because it's cooler, and everybody in the North hates it because it's too cold. Do you like homesteading in the cold? Do you like, tucking up by the fireplace, fire going? Or do you get depressed every year when winter comes around? So should you set up a homestead, a long-term endeavor, something that you're really not going to benefit from until, 10 or 15 years from now, as it really gives you all the yield back, are you going to want to set that place up in a climate that you don't enjoy living in? So you really want to identify, what do you want from your homestead? No one can answer this for you. You have to do your homework, but I will give you a lot of tips on how to narrow that down. We moved from our very first homestead, from Connecticut completely. I left the state of my birth, which most people don't do that. A lot of people do, but not everybody. Most people kind of stay within the area that they're used to. We left. It had great raw milk regulation. Connecticut was awesome for raw milk. We love raw milk. We love having a good raw milk dairy nearby. In Connecticut, you could find it. But we left it. We left Connecticut. They had great homeschool laws, but we left it. And the reason why we left partially was because land in Connecticut was too expensive. We wanted to grow a little bit from where we were at. The tax burden got heavier and heavier every year. And I feel sick to my stomach when I take, $10,000 a year that I could invest in more infrastructure, more animals, and I give that to the government. I do not enjoy doing that. So if I could live in a state where I could give $4,000 to them instead of 6 or 10, sign me up. So those were reasons why we left. Your reasons may be different for leaving or staying. Now here's what we did. For us personally, it was very important to live within a certain radius of where our family was. So there's places that you can go online, and I have a link I'm going to share at the end. I'll put it in the description, where you can type in a mile radius. So we figured, if we had a radius of about 500 miles, a little bit less, we kind of centered it to where our two parents were-ish, and figured, all right, we wanted to be close enough for our parents to be able to drive to visit us. We know how nice it is to have family close. We really enjoy that. So here we did this, we typed it in, we got our radius, and that gave us a bunch of states to choose from. We had New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Maryland, West Virginia, Ohio, Virginia, North Carolina, even a little bit of Kentucky and Tennessee. So we had a lot of options for states to choose from. Now, that was too many. There's too many options there to start really figuring out. So we knew right away we can shoot a couple of these and get rid of them right away. We were leaving Connecticut because of a heavy tax burden. We're not going to move right over the border into New York because they too have an incredibly heavy tax burden. New Jersey, even worse. So right there, New York, New Jersey, they were gone. Rhode Island, I love Rhode Island. I love fishing. I love surfing. But you can't find lots of land in Rhode Island. It's very hard to find land. So Rhode Island was gone. Massachusetts, there was no way I was moving to Massachusetts. They are way too controlling as to what you can do with your property. Again, tax burden. So we kind of wiped out a lot of New England right there. And that led us to a much smaller list of states. Now, the next thing we did was we made a spreadsheet out of these states. I would share this spreadsheet with you, but it's not going to be at all helpful for you because, unfortunately, like we talked about, what you care about and what we care about are very different things. But I am going to show you how this spreadsheet works. So just give me 1 minute here. There we are. All right, good. So now you can see my spreadsheet. So I want to show you this up close because I want to show you the amount of details that we put into the spreadsheet. So when we kind of eliminated all the things that might have been or things we definitely knew we weren't interested in doing, we were left with this. We can, there we go. All right, so we're going to explain this. We're getting a little fancy today. We learned how to do something new with our software. So what we looked at 7 states, including the one we were in, because although we felt like we wanted to move, we figured we better give Connecticut a fair chance. If we find out, we can't really move to somewhere that much better, then it would be easier to stay put. And then in our categories up top, we put things that were important to us. So you see life issues, work, and in that section it was work opportunities. So at the time I was running a marketing business for businesses. I needed a place with a lot of other businesses, people who wanted websites to be built, people who wanted videos being made about their what they were doing. I wouldn't want to move to the boonies running a marketing business. That wouldn't work for me. Homeschooling. Homeschooling was very important to us. Then there's a section for outdoor hobbies, gun laws, and hunting. Hunting is very important to our family. We feed ourselves a huge amount of our meat every year from the woods. So hunting was important for us to have a place with a good deer population, where they let you get a lot of deer, where there was good, healthy public lands and a good game program. Expense, this was a big one. Price per acreage, overall tax burden, the property taxes in the areas, the general cost of living. I can say for a fact, living where I do now in Pennsylvania, the cost of living is so much less than it was back in Connecticut. Back in Connecticut, what we would pay for, even for the farm, a hay bale could cost me $10 in Connecticut at Agway, where here in Pennsylvania you'll pay $5 at Agway, and if you find the farmer in Pennsylvania you'll pay $3 or $4. So cost of living and cost of farming, very different. Farming stuff, we were worried about environmental issues like fracking, or there was a big meth problem in Kentucky, so we didn't want to live near a bunch of meth heads, so we put that on the list. Farming legal issues, so is it easy to run a farm business from this place? How about raw milk? Yeah, we like it that much. We put a whole category for raw milk because we knew we either were going to have our own cow producing raw milk, or if we eventually didn't or never got the cow, we wanted to be able to buy raw milk. We love raw milk. So we factored that in. Weather, distance from parents. For us, distance from parents was a bad thing. So we awarded states that were closer with more points. For some people, distance from parents could be a good thing. So again, you put it on your chart as you need it. Nearness to the ocean. This may seem like a strange one for some of you if you don't care about going to the ocean. I was a surfer before I was a homesteader. I want to be near the ocean. Then we put a category in for what Ost likes and what Kay likes. We got to just give a bunch of points to one that we liked from 1 to 7. We just got to give points. I liked some better than Kay did, and I gave him more points and vice versa. These were the things that we saw. All the points got totaled up at the end here. We got to see the total score. And so we looked really quickly after going through all this, and we saw, you know what, Virginia is a serious option. North Carolina, Pennsylvania. We talked about it for a while, and we decided, you know what, North Carolina is just too far from our families. So that brought us down to 2 options. We were going to move from Connecticut only to live in Virginia or Pennsylvania. Our point system doesn't really matter. Give the points, your own point system. It's not exactly, this isn't hard science here. The point is, give yourself some kind of system to narrow down from maybe 10 states to like 2 or 3. And this spreadsheet is a really good way to do it. So when you go through this system, you look at the spreadsheet, you got to ask yourself at the end, should I move to another state? If you go through this list and you realize, wow, we really don't like the state we're in right now, or even another country, maybe you want to get out completely, new climate, new place, better growing. On a spreadsheet, it might look like that. You might see, wow, Virginia gets a way better score than Connecticut. Connecticut was at the bottom of our list. Virginia is at the top. I better move. Not necessarily. Moving states, and I would imagine, I've never done it, but I'd imagine moving countries is no different. It's probably much harder to move countries. Moving to a different state is a ton of work. There is so much effort. Moving just from Connecticut to Pennsylvania, not a huge move for us. We didn't have to fly in a plane. But here you can see in the picture we took, we got the drone flyover photo of the whole caravan. We had a huge Penske truck, the biggest one you can get without a commercial license. We had the giant van. We had a trailer we were towing. Ton of time, ton of effort, ton of energy. And that was just one trip. We still had to go back and get a livestock trailer and put our cows in the livestock trailer. So it's a ton of work. Moving far is hard. It can be emotionally hard. It's a lot of money to do all that, all the renting you have to do, and trucks and eating food while you're trying to pack up your home and everything. Physically, it's demanding. So the grass is not always greener. So just because it looks good on a spreadsheet doesn't mean you actually should be changing states. So really think hard, is it worth making the move? Do you want to be in your state for the next decade? Because homesteading is a long game. If not, then maybe it's worth looking at one of these other options. The spreadsheet is more to help you pick where you would want to go if you decide you don't want to stay where you are. Now you know how to pick which state to start your homestead in, but how do you pick which property? This video was an excerpt from an entire lesson on buying your perfect homestead property. It's the second lesson in our Start Homesteading course. If you want to take that course, click here. You can start with lesson 1.